Editorial Director of Contagious Communications in London. And at Today I spoke on the subject of projects, not campaigns. And by that, basically mean that advertising has kind of shifted. It's moved 180 degrees away from what we all consider as traditional advertising. And brands are now having to sort of invest in more kind of long-form content. So projects have moved away from that hermetically sealed advertising campaign of the past. I think that once you start opening up a dialogue with consumers that we've been talking about for the past couple of years, the inevitable consequence of that is that you end up where you've got to create projects that people feel they can get involved with, have a say, and don't necessarily have a beginning, a middle and an end. So some of the obvious examples, older ones are things like Pepsi Refresh or VW Fun Theory, but we've also been looking today at things like Levi's, for instance, in the US, who invested a lot of time and energy in promoting a town called Braddock in Pennsylvania. It was like a steel town that had fallen on really hard times, and they were using their advertising, all the casting and the locations, and everything came from Braddock. Basically, they were trying to help regenerate this town and use its inhabitants and environment as their advertising platform to try and talk about the concept of work and how their DNA fitted into the modern version of work that their brand is built on, which is like that pioneer gold rush spirit. So we've just been trying to find some examples of advertising that feels like a project, and that's why through technology it allows you to come up with some really interesting concepts that might only speak to a sort of a niche engaged audience, but by doing that you're having really meaningful conversations with people that care passionately about your brand, and then they spread the message far and wide. So from targeting a relatively niche audience, you actually end up with a mass reach because they spread the word for you, and it's like a two-way conversation. And one of the key things that we try to talk about, again, one of my favourite points being at Contagious, is all about the intersection of brands and technology. So what we say is that advertising should behave more like Silicon Valley than Madison Avenue. Madison Avenue is quite traditional. It's almost like the Mad Men's approach to advertising, which has been around since the 60s. And what we're saying is that agencies and brands should adopt more of a Silicon Valley mentality, which is failing forward fast, making mistakes, taking risks, learning from them, moving on. What we've sort of tried to encourage is something we call the 5% club. It could be the 10 or the 15% club, but just for safety, we say the 5% club. And that's where agencies and brands are encouraged to put a percentage, maybe 5% of their budget, into risk-taking and experiments, like really playing with new technology, trying some new platforms, doing something that's slightly outside of their comfort zone, so they can still do their mass market traditional media and feel safe. But we think that a lot of the creativity and the ingenuity, serendipity, and lots of other words beginning and ending with itty, is all about basically taking risks and having fun with technology, and that's where you learn new things.